Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel where today I'm going to be kickstarting a brand new series, which is where we're going to share some of the content from our members only website. There is so much invaluable content in there on training, nutrition, mindset, and motivation that only our members have had access to. However, I want to grant you access to some of that content that I feel will help you with your own transformation journey. So without further ado, let's get things kickstarted with an overview of the transformation journey that our clients go on. Hello and welcome to Cover Model Coaching. My name is Josh Coburn and I'm the owner and founder of Cover Model Coaching. And today it is my pleasure to introduce you to your transformation journey, the exact journey that you will go through as a Cover Model Coaching client, and more precisely, the 5 key phases that you will go through in order to reach that end destination, that goal, that dream, that aspiration of looking like the cover of a fitness magazine, getting into crazy shredded condition and being in the peak shape of your life. So without further ado, let's get stuck into the first phase, and that phase is the foundation phase. Now, this phase is the starting point of your journey, and this will typically last for around 4 weeks. So what is it? Why do we do it? And what is it there for? Well, firstly, we need to establish your starting point. We need to understand what you've been doing leading up until this point, whether you've been following a training plan, a nutrition program, or whether you are pretty much just starting from scratch. Either which way, we need to understand where you are right now, have your progress photos, set your initial stats in place with your weight and your measurements, and that just gives us a perfect picture of kind of where we are beginning this journey from. We then need to find your current set point and your maintenance calories. How many calories do you need to consume and expend in order to sustain your body weight? Once we know that, we can then more accurately move into the next phase. And there are 2 phases which we can potentially move into from this point, which I will explain in a second. So we will set you the estimated caloric and macronutrient requirement that you need to follow. Now, if you've been following something in the past, this will of course help us a little, as it will give us more of a rolling start. However, either which way, we need to set that target in place and, allow you to stick to it, and then we'll assess the data. Along with that, we will also commit you to a basic energy expenditure. So an amount of steps that you need to complete every single day, or an amount of cardio. Typically in the foundation phase, we don't like to add in much cardio. We like to save that as a tool later down the line when we're coaxing down that body fat. But just setting those in place and then weighing in weekly, assessing the data and trying to find that set point, that maintenance calories. And this sets us up to perfectly transition into one of the next 2 key phases, either the initial fat loss phase or the muscle building phase. So let's say, for example, we have now found your balance. We've found your set point and your maintenance calories. We can then have a look at your progress photos and decide where we go next. If you are carrying a little too much body fat for our liking and you are, a little bit over that threshold, we would put you through an initial fat loss phase. Now, this initial fat loss phase isn't about getting absolutely shredded, isn't about getting beach body shoot ready. It's just about getting you down to a baseline level of body fat, the kind of body fat that we accept as an ample amount of body fat in order to start building muscle, better. You don't want to be going into a muscle building phase and pushing the calories and adding body fat on top of body fat. So it's never an ideal scenario. But let's say, for example, maybe you don't have much body fat, then we would push you straight into that muscle building phase. But either which way, we can more accurately move into that, because once we know more specifically what the maintenance calories are, it isn't a case of just hit and hope in order to go into an initial fat loss phase and be in a deficit. We know where the maintenance is. By definition, as we've, studied it, we've looked at the data, and we have the stats and statistics to prove that, to then more accurately move into the fat loss phase, rather than just trying to hit and hope, or the muscle building phase, because that's just not the best way to go about it, for sure. So let's discuss the initial fat loss phase. It is all about reducing the body fat to that baseline level, as I mentioned. It's strategically creating a caloric deficit through your nutrition and or expenditure, usually a mix of the both. And the goal here, like I said, isn't to get photo shoot ready. We just want to be in a prime position to start building muscle and entering into that muscle building phase. And the less time here spent is the better, to be totally honest. However, of course, this depends entirely on how much body fat you have. But we want to get you to that threshold level first before we then move into the muscle building phase. Now, this is for me the most exciting part. This is where we really start to crank the dials and get your body primed in an amazing position to start a peak phase and get into photo shoot condition, because it's all about building lean muscle tissue. It's focusing on bringing up those weaker areas and improving the overall look of your physique. And the goal here is also to optimize your metabolism, okay? Because the more muscle mass we have, the more calories our bodies require whilst at rest. So if you can imagine later down the line when you are trying to get into peak condition, the more calories you require at this stage, the easier it's going to be to sustain that deficit, and the more enjoyable it's going to be as well. And it makes it so much more enjoyable and easier to execute. Which brings us on to our peak condition phase. So at this point, we've gone through the foundation. We've probably gone into an initial fat loss just to get down to that baseline layer. We've spent weeks upon weeks building muscle, getting your calories into a better place progressively and increasing them to a good rate where your body fat is still staying at a relatively decent position, but we are improving the overall body composition. We're improving muscle mass. We're resetting your metabolism, getting it into an optimal level. It's now time to bring it all together and showcase the efforts, everything that you've been working hard for, and head into a 12 to maybe 20 week peak condition phase. Now, this is about peeling back the body fat. This is about strategically and progressively increasing the caloric deficit, because as we lose weight, as we lose body fat, our requirement for calories of course become less. Therefore our intake and or expenditure must reflect this. So every time we hit a plateau, we move a dial. We increase the expenditure either through steps or through cardio, or we decrease the caloric intake. Either which way, we increase that deficit to continually bring that body fat and coax that body fat down. And this is why we don't like to go too ham too soon, because we like to leave ourselves as many tools in the toolbox to bring them out later down the line if we hit those plateaus. And this is why the muscle building phase is so important, because the more successful that phase is, the higher we can push our calories whilst keeping our body fat low, the more muscle mass we can build. Again, the more easy and enjoyable the entire peak condition phase is. So we get you shredded, we get you photo shoot ready, we get you to stand in front of that lens looking in the shape of your damn life. You have photo evidence of that. That is now your marker of, the best you can be given the current time. But that is what you are always aiming to be. It is always a case of you versus you. It's not you versus anybody else. It's about you becoming the best version of yourself, being better than you were yesterday. And that photo is a huge marker, is a huge checkpoint. And of course, you want to keep moving forward. There is no finish line in fitness. There's just a series of checkpoints. And that's how we like to look at this journey. So what happens after the shoot? Well, of course, you've progressively and strategically increased that deficit, be that through, pushing your expenditure levels through the roof and bringing the calories intake down. Then, we need to slowly revert back. We can't just all of a sudden go bang, back to the way that you were before, because of course, what do you think is going to happen? Your body's been so expectant of everything you've been doing in order to, be at the phase you are, be crazy shredded, the kind of body fat, where it's like the back of your hand all over your damn abs. You can't just go bang, straight back to where you were, otherwise you will blow up like a damn balloon and it won't be fun. You're gonna feel horrific and you're probably gonna look worse than when you even started. So we need to go through a strategic rebound phase after such an intense preparation. And this phase is all about steadily increasing your caloric intake and decreasing caloric expenditure. And like I said, failure to do so would result in huge body fat gain, which is not going to be fun for anybody. And this is often the hardest phase to execute for a multitude of different reasons. More so because the initial goal of being, in crazy shape for the shoot, that has now gone. You've maybe had to sacrifice a little bit of your social life. You've maybe had to sacrifice some of the cheat meals or foods that you really enjoy. And, you want to go ham and indulge and make up for some lost time. But the problem is, if you do that again, it's going to bite you on the arse. You're going to feel horrific and you're going to end up in a bad place. So we need to do this properly, in a controlled manner. And the good thing is, if you do this right, there's so much benefit on the back end, because you're going to sustain a much lower level of body fat than when you started, with more muscle mass. So again, before you even start the next preparation, you're already in a much better position, more muscle mass, lower body fat, better metabolism, more optimized metabolism. And then we go straight back into a muscle building phase. We should never need to go through that initial fat loss phase again. The only thing that we potentially do through the next muscle building phase, between the shoot that you've just done and the next shoot that you're going to work towards, or whatever it is you're going to work towards, a holiday, a wedding, we will just have mini cuts during that muscle building phase. If the body fat starts to creep up, we will bring it back down, because we never want to allow you to go too far away from that peak condition phase. We want to keep you as close to that as humanly possible, whilst progressing, growing, building, and optimizing your physique. So that is the journey. That is how it looks. That is what you have to go through in order to achieve that goal. And we have gone through this process thousands upon thousands of times, and the results have been nothing short of extraordinary. But one thing I will mention is, the more time you put in on the back end, the more you're going to get out. So the more time you put into this, the more you invest into this, as with most things in life, the more you're going to get out on the back end. So commit yourself to the process, fully immerse yourself in every phase of this journey, and I guarantee the results will be nothing short of extraordinary. Guys, I appreciate your time. I'll catch you in the next video.